think it's very important to talk about red flags of people and green flags as well. I think it's very important to protect each other, protect yourself. There's a lot of videos I see like this, especially about women talking about this. Um, like how to protect yourself as a woman. I'm trying to find a place to sit. This room always has the best light. But it's so cold in here. Usually, green flags that I look for, and this is good advice because this is someone who is traumatized. I am someone who is traumatized. And it has served me well. Actually, I don't pity myself. I'm the type of person who needed to actually be traumatized so that I could wake up, because I grew up thinking that people grew up the same way. I grew up thinking that people were raised the same way, that people had the same heart as me, that people thought the same as me, that people knew God and had a fear of God and were moral. Obviously, I knew bad things happen, like crime and murder and things like that, but you know what I mean? Like, you assume the best about people, right? It was like, oh, you're my friend, then you must be a good person. Like, you must want to be like me. You must want the best for me. And that's just not the truth. That's just not human nature, right? But I think that there are baseline green flags for people so that you can feel them out, so you can see if they're a good person. So for me, first of all, I try to see if someone's like low IQ or high IQ, right? That's very important too. Low IQ obviously is not going to be a very good thing. They're going to make your life hell. So when I say like low IQ, people who cannot emotionally regulate themselves, they have no insight. They have no inner thoughts. They have no inner dialogue. They don't edit themselves. They don't have a conscience and like say to themselves, "Oh my god, that conversation did not go well. I was actually kind of rude in that conversation." These people, they go home, they can ruin their relationships, and they just sleep fine, just fine at night. Doesn't bug them. Um, yeah, there's no inner thoughts and there's no emotional regulation, right? So they can just snap. They can be passive aggressive instead of communicating what's really bugging them or bothering them. Um, People that are loud. Yeah, I associate loudness, especially if your voice is really loud. Like, don't you hear the decibel of your voice? Don't you hear that it's actually like shaking the whole room? Like, it's very actually narcissistic because these people have an inner chaos and they've got to project their chaos outside. So, people that are loud, I've noticed this over and over again. People that are loud, the whole room can hear them. The whole room can hear the conversation. They have an inner chaos. And these are the types of people that it's also associated with low IQ. These are the types of people that are like, smacking things like you know, dragging drawers, like slamming doors. They have an inner they have an inner chaos, and I'm so breathless. I don't know what's going on. They have an inner chaos and they don't know how to manage it. So it just comes out. These are the types of people when you're trying to sleep, they're playing their TikTok videos out loud. They're playing their TikTok videos out loud on the bus. Full blown conversations out on speakerphone. These are the disturbing, annoying people, right? And these people generally don't care about anyone. They don't. They refuse to have etiquette. They refuse. They're the types of people like who will say to themselves, "Well, my shit doesn't stink," right? They don't care how they destroy lives around them, right? So, um, emotional regulation, loudness, people who cannot slow down. When I see people doing things really, really quickly, it's a red flag. So, what I mean by that, like doing tasks. When you do a task, are you doing it with like a soft gentleness and authenticity, or are you just doing it just to get through it? That's a big thing, actually. Doing things with care. doing things with like a kind of slowness, not slow that obviously slows you down, but it's an intentional slow intent. That's what I'm trying to get to. What is their intent when they do things? And even the little things that don't require much care, do they do it with care? So I'm a nurse. I'll see people around me all the time, nurses, doing tasks that are meant to be very gentle, very quickly. And to me, it's a sign of low IQ. It's a sign of carelessness. It's a sign of like being rushed and loud and just this kind of aggression, this tension in your body. I don't think you're a good person. I don't think you're a good person. I don't care. I know it's like a small measure and that might be a bit dramatic, but why do you not take the consciousness, like, why do you not take effort to slow yourself down, especially for the patient, especially these nurses? Like, one time, I've mentioned this in my video before, a nurse was being very aggressive. She was being very aggressive with a patient, and the patient cried. She was speaking not in a nice way. She was rushed. She's stressed. But even if you're stressed, you've got to edit yourself. You've got to like test, like, you've got to grow up and realize that, hey, how do I like have that inner conscience? How do I come off when I'm stressed? How do I deal with things? And especially people react to micro movements in your face, like, a furrowing of the brow. Do you raise your eyes? Like, do you bulge your eyes out? Do you huff and puff? These things matter. People pay attention to these things because 90% of our language is nonverbal, right? And I want to go back to that point. Like, are you doing small things with care and love, or big things, small things? Are you doing them with care and love and intent, or are you doing them rushed and annoyed and low quality, low effort? These things, the things that don't matter, that's the thing. This is the thing. People think that not a lot matters, but actually it does. The way you breathe, the way you think when you eat, the way you, like, are you intentional? Like, do you, like, for example, a really bad habit is going on your phone while you eat. That's also a sign of low IQ for me. Or like, you just have to play something while you're eating. Why do you always need to be entertained? People who can be bored are a green flag. People who can deal with their boredom in a good way are a green flag. People who cannot stand being bored are some of the most narcissistic, some of the most self-centered people you will ever meet. They need to have their social calendar full. They need to always be out and about. Why do you always need to be out and about? Why can you not relax? They always also speaking a lot. People who speak a lot. Major red flag. Why do you always need to be talking? Why do you always need to dominate the conversation? Why do you not listen more? We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. People who cannot be quiet. They can't deal with the quiet because they can't deal with their inner thoughts because they either don't have any or they're too troubled to deal with them. They're too troubled to go through the work. But guess what? When you avoid the work, when you avoid with your inner trauma, with your with your past that hasn't been resolved, with hurts that haven't been solved, that hurt comes out in other ways. It comes out when, I don't know, it comes out when you're doing things in a rushed manner, when you're being verbally aggressive with someone, when your body can't relax, when you're constantly having headaches, when you're constantly, it shows up in your body too. You're constantly having headaches. You're constantly like having aches. You can't relax. You can't sleep properly at night. There are suppressed emotions in the body. It's another thing. People who ignore their body, they are so caught up in other insignificant things that they don't come back to themselves. They're disconnected from themselves. Right? So I know it's kind of all over the place. I just thought of it, but honestly, like, these are accumulated thoughts that I've had. So, but like, people who can be quiet, slow down, they have the ability to slow down. They can look at you without feeling the absolute need to respond right away. right? They can just look at you while you talk, let you finish your sentence. A lot of people cut people off nowadays. I think social media is just shortening our circuits by a lot. It's shortening our patience. It's deteriorating our patience. Like, people don't wait for you to finish your sentence. Like yesterday, the respiratory therapist came to visit my patient. I was like, "Oh, are you the RT?" And before I could even finish, "Oh, you're the RT." She's like, "Yeah, yeah." I was like, "Okay, can you at least let me finish my sentence?" Like, I hear that a lot, by the way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Like, people are just like rushed for you to get to the end of your sentence. And I'm just kind of like, it's very, to me, it's very low IQ. Like, it's like, okay, like, why do you not wait for me to finish my sentence? It's very strange. Green flags. So people can slow down, who can speak in a quiet, low voice, in a quiet manner. People who have insight, who continually try to get better. People who can calm themselves down. They can deal with boredom. They don't think boredom is a bad thing. Sometimes it's painful for them, but they can like find ways to, or like they kind of lean into it. They're like, what can this boredom teach me? What ideas do I need? They actually let it they actually let the boredom make them flourish. Like, it gives them the opportunity to flourish. They'll let themselves go on a walk and just be quiet and be like, oh yeah, like I should have thought of that, or like it'll spark something, right? um Softness, gentleness. I think these are high signs of IQ, actually. um People who can do boring things with you, they can just run errands and they're happy. um oh, this is actually a sign of low IQ. So I get very confused by this. I get confused when I'm experienced in something and I give someone advice about something they're clearly asking about that I'm experienced in, and they immediately reject it, especially when they don't have experience in it. So, like, for example, people will be like, "Okay, how's nursing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's actually quite hard." And then they'll look at me like in disbelief, like I'm like, "Yeah, it's not for everybody. It's quite hard." And they think I'm trying to discourage them or that I'm trying to tell them they're not capable of it. Oh, they can't comprehend that two truths can be existing at the same time. Like they'll be like, oh, like they're so black and white. Like, it's like, what, it has to be yes so that it can be no, right? Something has to be right for the other thing to be wrong. But highly intelligent people can figure out that two truths can exist at once. Like, okay, nursing is hard, and also I can overcome the challenge of being a nurse. Like, they're unable to process a thought and like not com uh not completely either accept it or reject it. Like, there's no middle ground. Like, they're just like, oh, I have to accept or reject this thought. They don't think like, okay, let me think about this thought, let me think about what's being told to me. They'll just come to the conclusion that you're trying to like that I'm trying to like talk them out of the career. I'm just like, yeah, it's not for everybody. And instead of being like, why don't you tell me a little bit more about that, they'll just be like, they'll assume that I'm trying to tell them that they're not capable of it, but they just don't ask more questions. They just assume, which really pisses me off. And the other thing is too, like, people that have not had certain experiences and they ask you about something, or they have an opinion on something that they have not experienced but you've experienced and you've had years in it. So for example, I'll tell you about this. I hold the belief that most homeless people, it's a behavioral problem. It's not a mental health problem, it's a behavioral problem. Most of them are mentally competent, by the way. It's not always mental illness. But society has regurgitated this lie, right? That most homeless people, it's a mental illness problem. That is not always true. It's a behavioral problem. They are people who don't want to comply with societal rules. They don't want to conform to what society has to say for them. They're the types of people who are rebellious. They don't want to be proper. They don't want to be appropriate. Okay? Yes, of course, there's people who don't want to be homeless. But again, this is what I'm saying. This doesn't apply to everyone. It's just a pattern It's pattern recognition. It's what I've noticed with most homeless people or homeless patients or alcohol withdrawal patients. It's a behavioral problem. You don't want to conform. You don't want to do the right thing because maybe it's just too hard for you or whatever. And I have said this to a friend. I'm like, homeless people, like it's usually a behavioral problem and they're very difficult to deal with. And she looked at me like, first of all, she works a cushy job. She will rarely know what it's like to actually deal with a homeless patient for 12 hours, to see the behavioral issues. When you see someone that can clearly go to the bathroom and still choose to shit in their diaper, I'm going to go ahead and say that you're just being a dick. Okay? And she doesn't get to experience that. And when I said that to her, she's like, oh, no, like, I don't believe that. I was just like, first of all, you've never experienced this. So get off from your high horse, climb down from the ivory tower for a second. And I just find it very weird to write off someone's opinion when they're clearly very experienced in this, instead of being like, I've never considered that opinion. Interesting. And her and I just kind of looked at each other. I'm like, okay, we're clearly going to reach an impasse because you're just a little princess and you don't understand how the real world works because you've never dealt with like this kind of difficulty in your life. Maybe you've dealt with like different difficulties, different challenges in your job. I don't know, your email didn't send or whatever. But sweetheart, this is the real world. And what the hell do you know about it? I'm immersed in it. I do it every day. They say if you want to be good at something, do over 10,000 hours in it, right? Pretty sure I'm well past 10,000 hours. Been a nurse for 8 years, so I think I know what I'm talking about. So I find it very strange when I give advice about something or when something I'm clearly very experienced in and people just outright reject it. Instead of just having like a small back and forth, they'll just outright reject it. Then first of all, why are you asking since you have your opinion and you're already convinced of it? And second of all, why you're dismissing someone who's experienced in something and you're clearly not. And here you are just saying, first of all, you don't know that I don't know what I'm talking about and that somehow you know more. Doesn't make sense. So very low IQ, very like people that don't welcome thoughts in a way that can be shaped or molded or like take space in their brain and like, let me mull it over for a second. Let that marinate for a second. No. It's just instant like either blockage or acceptance. And also like the way you think about your thoughts is so important. Like, okay, like for example, if I give you advice, of course you shouldn't outright accept it. But at the same time, the lack of humility that people have is like, how do you think you know better when I know better, actually? How do you think you know better when I've experienced this over and over and I have the pattern recognition? It's very confusing to me. When I receive advice, I try to think about where it's coming from. I don't outright reject it. I think it's very stupid to tell the person that is clearly speaking to me because it's actually kind of rude. Yeah, I don't believe that. Let me Google that. That's very strange to me. I would never do that to someone. I wasn't raised that way. But I would let it sink in and I would think, okay, why is this person giving me this advice? Is it coming from a good place or a bad place? And is it valid? And how does it hold up? Is it true? Can I research on it? And also, will this advice affect me in a long time or will I need this advice later? There are thoughts to be had, right? But people don't have that kind of dialogue anymore. They don't even have that wherewithal to like go back and forth with you. They'll just be like, oh yeah, yes or no. And I find that very, very, I don't know, it's unsettling, honestly. So yeah, those are the signs of a low IQ, high IQ, red flag, green flags, like person, right? Yeah, have yourself a wonderful day. Hope this helps. Hope you can relate. If you can relate or you think that there's some validity to what I'm saying, please comment, share, let's speak on it. Let's build some dialogue. Alrighty.